after going through my own journey, I realized it's not your body attacking itself. It's actually your body just letting you know something in your body is out of balance. It's really our body saying, hey, no more. And it's presenting with symptoms like fatigue, exhaustion, bloating, eczema, or a lot of skin issues. All of these are signs of pre-autoimmune. And if you have those symptoms, that's where you really need to first look at your life, right? Is there a stressor? I think a lot of us too shift into that victim mindset of, we go to the doctors for whatever it might be, and we just give them the power. But what we don't realize is our bodies were created to heal themselves.
Welcome, I am Claudia Noriega-Bernstein, abundance coach, author, and host of the award-winning Don't Shrink to Fit podcast, which recently won the Woman in Podcasting Award in the coaching category. Over the past 15 years, I have the privilege of connecting with women from around the world, and I am here to share all the tools I have learned along the way to help you uncover new possibilities in your life. In this space, you will hear impactful stories from women who have walked in similar shoes, sharing their wisdom and insights. Together, we will explore your passions, reveal your inner gifts, and embrace possibilities you may not have thought were within reach. Let's grow beyond limits so you never have to shrink to fit again. Hi guys, I have today Vickie Padavano. Did I pronounce it right? Yeah,
That sounds perfect.
my Italian is kicking in. She's a board-certified nurse coach and autoimmune holistic health coach who helps women heal from the inside out, emotionally, energetically, and physically. I'd love to have you here. I'm so excited to talk to you. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I think it's so important to talk about this because a lot of times we don't understand what is happening in our bodies. We have a lot of symptoms and we treat the symptoms, but we don't really know that there is something deeper. And your journey is super interesting because you found out, number one, what was your calling, and number two, what was happening to you after you were diagnosed with Hashimoto, correct?
Hashimoto's, yes, correct.
Can you tell me a little bit about that moment?
Yeah. So that was a really big moment in my life. So for years, I was healthy, right? Like I had no issues whatsoever that I thought, but I had symptoms, but I just really just thought, I was working in the ER, I was working nights. So of course I'm stressed, I'm tired. That's why I feel exhausted, right? I never thought anything different. And it wasn't until I went to try to have a baby and I went to a fertility clinic and they basically told me, you have no chance. Like you have maybe one egg. And if we remove that, like and try to do in vitro, the likelihood is it may not survive. So I was 29 years old and I remember thinking, this is impossible. Like, how does this happen? So I went to the doctor. And of course, as nurses do, it had been, I don't know, 7 years since I had gone to the doctor. So I went to the doctor, they ran a bunch of lab tests. And then that is when they found out that I had Hashimoto's and that the Hashimoto's had affected my fertility. And so that was kind of the moment that I found out, okay, something was going on with my body. I wasn't listening, right? I just kind of like most of us women, we just keep pushing through. And it's not until something happens where you say, okay, I've got to take control of my life. And that was kind of the turning moment for me where I started taking control of my health.
But we have, I think, the misunderstanding that when we have an autoimmune disease, is our body fighting us, correct?
Yes.
So can you explain what it is, an autoimmune disease?
Yeah, absolutely. So that exact what you just said, that statement is what I learned in nursing school, right? It's your body attacking itself. It's something going on inside. But after going through my own journey, I realized it's not your body attacking itself. It's actually your body just letting you know something in your body is out of balance, right? So it thinks like, okay, I've got to, it's saying, oh, I got to attack. No. All it's doing is communicating with you that something is going on internally that's out of balance. energetically, right? Is there no boundaries? Something is happening that your body's letting you know something is going on. We learn it in the westernized medical field as your body's attacking itself, but that's not necessarily what's happening. It's really our body saying, hey, no more. And it's presenting with symptoms like fatigue, exhaustion, bloating. Everyone has a different type of symptom that comes up.
Right. And sometimes we think that is because we're taking a for example, I'm, you know, going through menopause myself,
Mhm.
and
Okay. Yeah.
they put me on some hormones. So I was talking to my
Mhm.
doctor yesterday and I said, my feet are so swollen. And she goes, well, it shouldn't. But then I went on the internet, I did a little research, and I realized that testosterone can make your feet to get swollen. And so I text her and I said, look what I just found. And she goes, well, that's very rare. And I go, well, give it to me. I'm always get the side effects of whatever. But doctors usually tell you, "Ah, it's 1 in 10 people." Well, that will be me. So oftentimes we do that. We take a medication and that medication had some side effects. And we just think, okay, those are the side effects of the medication. But based on what you're telling me, it could be that that medication just highlighted something else that is happening in your body. Is that possible?
Yeah, it absolutely is possible. Yeah, I think that the way that we deal with conditions are basically you go into the doctor, you show up with symptoms, right? It could be in your case, and then we just prescribe medications. That's just what we do. Another example is diabetes, right? Someone who is diabetic gets put on insulin or metformin or some sort of pill, right, to help regulate their blood sugars.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that that's curing them, right? That's just managing it, right? So the westernized world manages the symptoms. They give a medication to make sure that the symptoms don't get worse, but in the process, it could mean that there's then another side effect that we're not considering. And so then you have a compilation of problems. And that's where the difference is, where if you get to the root of the problem versus just managing the symptoms, you can actually not have the symptoms anymore and not have to take medications for it necessarily. Now, that's not every case, but it can happen, right? So, yes, there are side effects to certain medications that cause even more problems, which is why it's most important to really get to the root cause versus just continuing a medication to then, oh, wait, now I have high blood pressure from that medication. Okay, let me take high blood pressure medication to manage that side effect. And then you're just now taking, 5 to 10 medications a day.
Right. So how somebody that is having, I don't know, like let's say swollen feet, and
Mhm.
decide, okay, I did a research, I'm taking this hormone, this is a side effect, I should just leave it alone. Or is there any test that somebody can take to find out if they have an autoimmune disease?
Yeah, there's a lot of tests, but the biggest thing is honestly a lot of us have pre-autoimmune symptoms years before they actually develop into an
Yes.
autoimmune condition because
Uh-huh.
your body's telling you, hey, there's a problem, there's something going on, and it's warning you until one moment, then your body can't do it anymore. So the biggest thing is that I think a lot of us could prevent it from even occurring. And I think that's really where we need to start is, if you're exhausted and you're getting tons of sleep, that's a
Mhm.
big sign. I'm sleeping 8 hours, but somehow I'm waking up exhausted, right? I'm eating pretty nutritious, maybe okay every so often not. I'm feeling bloated, right? Or I
Mhm.
feel exhausted after that meal, right? I'm having eczema or a lot of skin issues. All of these are signs of pre-autoimmune. And if you have those symptoms, that's where you really need to first look at your life, right? Is there a stressor? Number one, right? Am I feeling everything? A lot of us don't like to feel emotions, right? Because probably at one point in our lives we were either told you got to be the strong one or something like that. So
Mhm.
our body has just rejected emotions. And it's again looking and saying, well, what am I doing? Can I feel this emotion or work through these emotions? I can change my diet, right? Diet change, which is just removing inflammatory foods, that just decreases inflammation and will probably take majority of your symptoms away. So I think that's the pre-case. Now, if you're already past, right, you have more than those little symptoms and you're just nothing, the doctors have done test after test and they still can't figure it out. There are specific tests depending on what it is, right? So your primary care can run it. A lot of them a lot of women suffer with Hashimoto's. It's definitely all controlled with your voice and lack of voice, right? If you
Mhm.
haven't had a voice in your life, the likelihood you most likely will develop Hashimoto's in your lifetime. So that's an easy test. They can check your thyroid, they can check your antibodies, they can check for rheumatoid arthritis and check your rheumatoid factors, right? There's an ANA test. There's many tests that either your primary can run or an endocrinologist or a rheumatologist. If, of course, they've done other tests and everything comes back negative. So there are many tests.
And it's crazy when you start thinking about how your emotions sit in your
Mhm.
body and then
Mm.
cause you to get sick. For years, this was like a woohoo thing. People didn't believe
Yes.
that that was true. Like, yeah, what? You had a overprotective mom and then now you have this problem in your
Mhm.
pancreas? That's not true.
Yeah.
This is not why you
Mhm.
having it. But oftentimes when we say yes to everybody else, because as women, we
Mhm.
think we got to take care of everyone, we have to be the strongest one, we have to be the ones leading.
Mhm.
If you're the oldest daughter, it comes with a lot more responsibility. You kind of give a pass to your
Absolutely.
brothers and sisters because you're the oldest one. So you're supposed to do it's expected. So we keep saying yes to the world and not to ourselves. We're making
Mhm.
ourselves sick.
Oh, 100%. Our nervous system and our immune system, the whole purpose of it is to protect us, right? That's what it does. So let's say someone crosses you, right? Someone says something disrespectful to you. You get that feeling inside of like anger, right? But if you're not used to confronting it, you might just hold back, right? You might not say anything. But what that's doing is that's telling your nervous system and immune system, hey, that feeling that I gave you is wrong. So don't do that. So what it does is at that moment, it's teaching your body to stop defending you. So what does that do? It suppresses your immune system. So you do that for too long, eventually you end up with an autoimmune condition, honestly, chronic illness and cancer. Anger and cancer are paired because you're so angry. And as women, we think about breast cancer, ovarian cancer. We are taught, oh, no, no, don't get angry, right? Don't get angry. You got to just, relax. Don't do that. We hold that anger in too long. Eventually, it leads to disease.
And I coach moms. I am an inner abundance coach, and I coach moms. And a lot of time, it's not even the anger; it's the sadness and the feeling unseen. And
Mm,
it shows
mm,
up as anger, anger being a
mm.
secondary emotion.
Yes.
So go deeper
Yes.
and see, are you sad? Are you frustrated?
Mhm,
Are you feeling unseen? Are you feeling like you don't matter anymore? And
mhm,
those emotions can maybe show up as anger, but there are other
mhm,
emotions that they need to really pay attention to and find out where are the source of those emotions and try to heal, like you said, from inside out. It's funny that you said about the cancer because I did have cancer in my thyroid, between my heart
mm,
and my lungs, and in my uterus.
mm,
And I had
mm.
a lot of mommy problems. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it's
there is a
yeah.
correlation there,
Mhm.
that
Absolutely.
I was holding all those emotions. And honestly,
Mhm,
when I start working on myself and I start really processing all those emotions and feeling them, not avoiding them, not brushing them off, not ignoring them, but going through them and accepting them and getting
mhm,
curious, where is this emotion coming from? When is
mhm,
the first time I felt like this? Where was I? How old was I? What was if somebody told me something, if I felt in danger, whatever was
mhm,
happening in that moment, create that emotion. And it's kind of like the opposite of manifesting. And I teach manifestation. So when I teach the manifestations, I tell them to attach an emotion to that thing they want because you don't really want the
mm.
thing, you want the emotion.
Correct.
But this is totally the opposite, right? You're attaching an emotion to something you don't want. And that thing that
Mhm,
you don't want is telling your body that you're not supposed to feel that. So let's storage this, let's put it away. And that emotion create these bad cells that start eating you from the inside out.
correct, correct, and it basically is your body saying you're basically, like I mentioned, your body is learning that it does not know what it's doing, right? And I think a lot of us too shift into that victim mindset of,
Mhm.
we go to the doctors for whatever it might be, and we just give them the power. We give them the power because they know what they're doing, right? They've gone to school. But what we don't realize is our bodies were created to heal themselves.
Mhm.
They have the capability. It's just that, you know, We have a hard time feeling emotions. We have a hard time literally living the way that our bodies were created to do so. So I think it's taking back that power, right? Getting back our voice, getting all of that, where then our body's like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I was created. I know what I'm supposed to
Right.
do. And it can protect you. It can give you that emotion that protects your immune system, right? And then you can say, oh, that's what that emotion is, right? So it is a whole processing through time. But our bodies have so much wisdom. And I don't think that we give it enough credit.
I agree with you. So if somebody comes to you and tell you, okay, Vicky, I have gone to 10 different doctors, I'm still feel exhausted, I'm not anemic, I'm taking, all my vitamins and all my stuff, and I go to bed, I am exhausted in the morning, and my arms hurt or whatever symptoms that person has. How do you start with that person? What is the first thing that you do when a client comes to you and tell you, I'm not well, but no doctor can tell me what's wrong with me?
Yeah, I get their story. I really like to hear about them, right? When did their symptoms first start? Because you can usually track back to the moment that their symptoms started. And usually it's either a big chronic stress event, right? A traumatic event. It's something huge that happened either a year before or something that then all of a sudden they get the diagnosis. So I
Mhm.
try to track it back to say, when did this first occur? If they still, some people don't have a diagnosis, but they have all the symptoms, that's when I start going back into their childhood and saying, how was it, right? Like, how was your childhood? Uh, did you feel,
Loved.
loved, seen,
Mhm.
all of those things, right? Did you have a sibling, right? Trying to get an understanding of what the family dynamic was, because usually that gives me a big indication of what their root cause is, right? There's also toxins, right? You can go into a whole nother slew of things, but majority of everything happens from some sort of something that happened in their past that then developed later on. So that's the first thing I do. And then after that, I ask how they deal with stress. Do they feel stressed right now? How is their body feeling? That's sometimes a little difficult for someone who may not be able to articulate what that feeling is. So I just say, well, what does your body feel like? Do you have tightness in your chest? Do you have tightness in your shoulders, right? Do you have numbness, tingling? Just really getting an idea of how the body's speaking. And they may not be able to articulate it, but most times people can describe it. And then because of seeing it so much, I can say, okay, this something is going on around here, right? And then we can dig deeper. But a lot of it, the secret to a lot of people's issues is their nervous system. And that's the one thing that people do not teach in the medical field, right? They just basically try to manage. But a lot of people, if you've tried supplements, you have tried diets, you have tried doing everything possible and nothing's working, most likely it's your nervous system that needs healing, not anything else.
Hey, Mama. If you're feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, you have lost yourself in the chaos of motherhood, I see you and you are not alone. I know how heavy it feels to be pulled in every direction, running on empty, and wondering why sometimes you just can't push through. But hear me when I say this: you are not failing. You're just caring too much, and it's okay to need support. I have worked with so many moms who feel the same way. That's why I created my coaching program, to help moms like you break free from burnout, get your energy back, and actually enjoy life again. Whether it's a one-on-one coaching, my transformational programs, I have options that fit your life. DM me Balance or visit my website to schedule a free discovery call. So let's figure it out together. All the links are in the description of this show. And now, back to the interview. So how do you heal that? Like when somebody comes to you and you find out, okay, we we have found the root of the problem here, and your nervous system is it's a
Mhm.
mess. What is the next step?
Yeah. So the smallest thing is literally getting them on something, a protocol that would get them, number one, getting outside, right? Getting outside, connecting to nature is one of the easiest ways, simple ways to start regulating the nervous system. But slowing down, right? Teaching them This is a simple, simple way. How many of us women say, oh, we're going to go to the bathroom. We'll be right back, right? We stop everything. Hold on. We'll be right back. And we rush, right? We rush. That right there, that simple thing of teaching them, hey, just say, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Don't give an explanation.
I'm gonna
Don't give
take
anything.
10.
Yeah. You just go. And literally I teach women, you go to the bathroom and I want you to sit there and I want you to feel what it feels like to have to go to the bathroom, what it feels like to release after you go to the bathroom. Just a simple and you literally sit in that moment, be present with it and feel how it feels to be full, to not anymore. And that little practice starts building your nervous system to have the capacity to feel more emotions, to be able to slow down. And then we can do more in depth, like breath work and somatics and something deeper. But sometimes it's just as simple as teaching someone how to slow down, how to enjoy their meal or brush your teeth. Another example is when you brush your teeth in the morning, when you put the toothbrush in your mouth, smell it. What does it smell like? What does it taste like? How did the bristles feel on your gum, on your teeth, on your tongue? Little things like that slow us down and allow the nervous system to do what it's supposed to do. So again, some people try to jump too fast, and sometimes it's just the little things that end up building up through weeks that then allow you to have the capacity to then really shift your nervous system from fight or flight into that relaxed state. So initially, it would be starting small.
And this, I'm sure you also have clients that are like overweight or they're
Mhm.
depressed, or it's not
Oh
just
yeah.
a physical pain that they're feeling, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
other symptoms, right? Um,
Oh yeah.
so you go through the same process with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Things take time, right? So there's multiple things that I do with them. The first call is really getting an idea of who they are, and then really breaking down what they need to be their first step. Because when you have an autoimmune condition or chronic illness or anything, it's hard for you to get. Well, this is what we're going to do in 12 weeks. These are the steps. It's a lot. You
Mhm.
barely can get up in the morning, right? Like you can barely get through the day. So it's really about telling them, I know where you want to go, but we're going to slow you down a little bit, right? We're going to get there, but we
Mhm.
need to slow your body down enough to be able to get to those next steps. But all of that, right? Depression, anxiety, a lot of the reason we have anxiety and depression is because our nervous system is so dysregulated that our feelings, right? We feel so anxious because we feel like a lion's attacking us at all times. So, of course, you're going to feel anxious, right? Or the opposite. Maybe you are in fawn response, right? You're now like hiding away, and so you have this, you're more depressed. And so when you regulate your nervous system, it not only fixes you physically, but it fixes you emotionally, spiritually, because it's really it works to really get those energetic pathways open as well, because you're able to create, your body will never heal in fight or flight. Never. No matter what you're doing, it will only heal if you're in the rested state.
And once you get regulated, once you feel, okay, now I'm feeling more like myself, I guess, right? I am more aligned with who I am meant to be, and my emotions are regulated. Is there a chance or a danger that you will go back to your old patterns, or once your nervous system is regulated, kind of your body learn that path now, and now it's going to be a different way?
Of course, there's always a chance, right? And that's why when I coach clients, there's a process, right? There's a process of the nervous system healing. There's a process with diet and lifestyle, and also unlearning those patterns, because you can regulate your nervous system and maybe you feel a little better, but guess what? When a new situation happens and you're put into that same situation, you may react just like you used to because you never unlearned that pattern, right? Like the people pleasing, the overgiving, right? Those type of patterns, if you don't unlearn those patterns, then of course you're going to go back. And here's the thing, there's many things that you may unlearn, and it doesn't mean that if it happens again you're not going to want to shift back, because there's many moments that I can see, I'm like, oh, Vickie, you just did it again. You literally just shifted back in. The difference is now you're aware of it, right? Now you're aware what it feels like to do that pattern. Once it's in your awareness, it doesn't go away, right? So now I can stop myself and say, okay, Vickie, you just did it again. Feel into your body what's going on, right? You just did a people pleasing move that you've done many times. So now I can stop and say, okay, I didn't put a boundary there. So how am I going to change that for next time, right? So it's not that you don't go, you just now know what to do the next time it happens, but you have to pair nervous system with unlearning patterns so that you don't keep shifting back into your old ways.
Wow, that's so interesting. And I'm curious, whatever we eat influence, like if you eat a lot of
Yeah.
sugar, for example, there are people that eat a lot of
Mhm.
sugar, they have cravings for sugar. What that
Mhm.
means?
Yeah, so craving for sugar is most likely there's an imbalance somewhere, right? Because we crave what we need, right? We crave what we need. Our body knows, but sometimes when we're addicted to sugar, we may not know the difference between what's a craving and what is just a habit, right? What is
Mhm.
just that dopamine that we need to just, okay, let me have this so I can feel happy again, right? So yeah, our what we eat is a huge portion of it, right? It has to be paired with everything. It's a whole holistic approach, but diet is a major thing. Certain foods give us inflammation. It just does. And some of us who now have systems with autoimmune or chronic illness, we may need to adjust what we eat so that the inflammation isn't so high. And I sometimes tell people some people need nervous system work first, some people need diet first, and some people need them all at the same time, right? Because sometimes if our body's too inflamed, we can't do any nervous system work because our body's not functioning right
Right.
at its what it's supposed to. So sometimes you have to pair it all together. But yeah, inflammatory foods will make you feel your brain will have fogginess, you'll
Mm.
forget things, you'll have joint pain, you will have bloating. Diet affects a lot of what you feel. And sometimes just removing that, you'll feel 10 times better. You'll wake up and say, wow, I don't have the pain. And that's been my experience and some of my clients as well, is just a little diet change. It'll help you feel good almost in, I don't know, 3 to 4 weeks. And you might not have any more pain, right? To keep it, that's when we do the nervous system work, right? So diet will help you for the little bit, nervous system work will help you for the long run.
So what are the food, or give me a
Mhm.
couple of examples of things that we eat every day, like a normal person eat every day,
Yeah.
but are not good for you if you are going through something like that?
Yeah. So what I'll say this is there is a certain diet. I hate to say that it's a diet because I'm not a big fan for diets, but it's called the
It's a
autoimmune protocol.
regiment.
It's a regimen. There we go. That's better. The reason I like the autoimmune protocol is because it's not a forever sentence. Because this is the thing we're told in general, right? We put everyone in a box. We say if you have autoimmune, you shouldn't have gluten, soy, dairy. You just shouldn't touch it, right? Or nightshades. That's not my belief. My belief is you have to find what's right for your body because what my body can tolerate may not be what you can tolerate. So the autoimmune protocol diet, what it does is for 3 to 4 weeks, you remove nightshades, so tomatoes, eggplants, peppers. You remove dairy, you remove gluten, soy, corn, those foods that are where we all, for the majority, a lot of people become inflamed. When you
Mm.
remove those, and then in 3 to 4 weeks, you either have no symptoms or you keep going a little bit. Once you have no symptoms or minimal symptoms, you start reintroducing certain foods. That's at the point where you'll know, oh, this causes me issues.
Or
This
you
doesn't,
introduce
right?
them one at a time to see
You
which
do.
one is the
Mhm.
one giving you that reaction. Okay.
Correct, correct. And I also say this because when I first did this and I reintroduced eggs, I got an immediate headache, joint pain, and cramping in my stomach. I had no idea that eggs was giving me that reaction.
Don't
So
tell
of
me
course
that.
I but wait, no, no, here's the good news. As you continue to heal,
Mm-hmm.
your body may be able to tolerate these foods because 8 months later, I was able to eat eggs. Not every day, because as my body continues to heal, right? This is a process, it doesn't happen
Right.
overnight. But I always tell people don't ever think that something is forever. That you'll
Right.
never be able to eat dairy or you'll
Right.
never be able to eat soy. No, there's a process. Your body heals, then it can take more food. It can take those foods that maybe at one point your body couldn't tolerate because it was so out of whack. It was just feeling terrible. So
Mm.
again, that's why I believe in that diet because it's not a forever sentence. It's literally for you to take your power back and know what foods help you and what foods make you feel bad. And then also to heal your body in the process.
And what about alcohol?
Yeah, so everyone has a different experience with alcohol. What
Mm-hmm.
I've realized is I do drink. I'm not saying I don't drink, but I definitely alcohol causes me a lot of inflammation. It doesn't make me feel good. And yes, probably age has a lot to do with that too, but that's something I definitely I have reduced a lot through
Mm-hmm.
this journey. because it just, I mean, it is a toxin, right? We understand it is in a sense a toxin, but I also, again, I don't believe in never. I don't think people should ever do that. That's too much
Right.
for the brain to process. It's too much of a restriction. But I feel like someone should evaluate based off of how they feel after they drink alcohol.
Right, because they say that some studies said that one glass of red wine a
Mhm.
day is good for your body, but you also have to think what other parts of my body are not agreeing with this, you know? It might be
Correct.
good for one thing, but might be causing me a lot of headaches in other ways, you know, literally. So
Yeah. No,
um
absolutely.
drinking a lot of water is something that I should do more. But you know, I
Mhm.
feel this is so interesting because when you start thinking about it, then you start realizing all the do's and don'ts that you do in your life, and it doesn't really take a lot to change that. It's not that you are gonna totally change your lifestyle. You just have to tweak it a little bit, right?
Correct. You create a life that fits you. And that's my belief, right? Everyone has a different belief. They may tell you you've got to give it up. I don't necessarily agree with that because I've tried giving I have always been a very high achieving person, right? You tell me to follow a diet, oh, I'll follow it to the T. I
Mhm.
will not like at all. Like to me, that's who I am. But that causes so much stress on me. So it's pointless, right? I'm supposed to decrease stress in my body and decrease inflammation, but I'm over here stressing myself out because, oh no, I ate something I shouldn't have. No,
Mhm.
that's more stress on your body. We want to create less stress. We want you to be able to have a life and not feel like you have all these restrictions because, again, that puts us in a negative mindset. I don't believe that. I think you need to create a life that fits you, makes you feel good, and then you live that out, right? Don't always listen to what other people want you to do. That's in every way, right? I mean, you teach that probably too.
Yeah.
You create your life, not what everyone else wants you to do. It's the
Mhm.
same thing with lifestyle and diet. You create what you feel.
It
Of
works
course,
for you.
exactly. There's a difference. Don't just, well, I feel I can just eat this. Don't makes you feel terrible. There is a difference, but create a life that you love, right? With food, with how you live your life that's less stress. Don't stress yourself out more.
And where the somatic comes with this
Mhm.
in when
Yeah.
you treat somebody.
Yeah, so somatics is all about feeling into your body
Mhm.
because my belief and many people, there's many studies on this, your body doesn't know how to communicate in words. Your
Mhm.
body communicates in symptoms, right? So you feeling into your body, feeling in, okay, I feel that chest tightness here, right? Really feeling into what it feels like in every part of your body. It allows you first to slow down, but it allows you to start listening to how your body is communicating. As you learn, right? So when I end up not speaking my truth, or my mom passed away 3 years ago, but I went through a whole thing with her and I needed to let her go. And she was, I was raised with a narcissist. I know you had posted something, so it really resonated. But when I was going to let go of everything for a ceremony just to like really heal, I 3 days before
Mm.
couldn't swallow whatsoever. And I didn't think anything of it, right? Until all of a sudden I stopped and I listened and I tuned in and I realized, oh, it's because my nervous system is trying to protect me from saying the things that I'm writing in this letter to my mother, even though she's not here. But my
Right.
body knew what it felt like to say it out loud and what the result was. So
Mm.
my body literally was shutting me down. It was shutting my voice down. It was saying, don't do that, Vickie. Right. So that's where somatics come in because I was moving, and it wasn't until I stopped and I started to listen and feeling into why am I having this tightness in my throat? Why can I not swallow? What is going on? And that is when it hit me because it's my voice trying to come out, right? And my body's protecting me. So it's a lot about slowing down, feeling into your body because our soma, right? That's what somatics, our soma
Mhm.
is that the parts of it's what connects the nervous system, everything together that holds on to trauma, that holds on to everything. So we have to tune into that to feel into everything, to really start feeling our emotions.
You know, when you said it's so true, we're four, we're actually five, but my youngest sister is from my dad's marrying my stepmom, and the four of us were raised by the same mom. Three of us had thyroid cancer.
Mm.
except for the golden boy. The golden boy didn't have a problem
Oh,
expressing himself,
yeah,
but the other three, we felt like,
of course.
we were trapped in
Mhm.
our own throat. So, and
Yes.
that's what I talk actually about, the narcissist, mom,
Mhm.
and growing up with that, emotionally unavailable parent, because
Mhm.
that I learned on my own that a lot of my disease was because of my body and myself not feeling that I have the right or the space
Mm,
to speak,
mm,
and not necessarily has to be, a person that had an abusive relationship or was, abused sexually when he was a kid. Of course,
mhm.
there are those cases as well. But even just being in an environment where you feel you don't have a voice, where you
Yeah.
feel you don't matter, where you feel
Mhm.
invisible, that can create that cancer in your throat
Oh,
that
yeah. Oh,
develop
yeah.
into a disease.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
it is crazy because in my journey of healing, as I'm learning to help my clients, I'm learning with myself, where they started, like what you were saying at the beginning. When was the first time I felt like this?
Yeah.
How come, even though my life didn't really change that much, let's say from when I was 10 to when I was 17, it didn't change as much, but there were moments on those
Mhm.
years that were very impactful. So those moments create a belief, and that belief stays
Yes.
with me, and it sits with me, and it start harving. How you say harving? No,
Harvest. Yeah.
harvest.
Yeah.
It start
Mhm.
it harvests this disease that is growing inside of
Mhm.
me because I am not treating it. I am not paying attention to it. I am not embracing it and going through the roller coaster of emotions that that moment has created inside of me. And oftentimes we
Absolutely.
dismiss that. We
Mhm.
think, okay, you know what, I'm good. It's fine. I'm fine. And that's what we
Yeah.
tell ourselves, but we're not. And then you get to be
Correct.
58 like me, and you are like, wait a minute, why my joints are hurting, why my feet are swelling,
Mhm.
why I can't sleep at night, or why I sleep and I wake up tired, like you said before. There is a reason. So I
Yeah.
love that you are in the show because I am learning a lot, and I'm sure there is other women that are listening to you that are feeling something is out of whack here, something
Mhm.
is not working, and all my tests are okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we gotta go deeper. Why did you, or how did they find out you had Hashimoto? Did you actually read about it and say, I want to be tested for that, or they just
I
discovered it?
know I no, when I went to the doctors, to the primary care, I just said, I was told these are my lab results from the fertility clinic. They basically said I have no fertility. And I told them, I said, I'm very confused because I've never had issues. I don't understand what's going on. And so that doctor specifically tested my thyroid. So after that, I got sent to an endocrinologist and then they tested me for that. So most likely it'll be a specialist that will test you for it.
Mhm.
But again, the other thing is you have to be your own advocate. I've been a nurse for 11 years and I'll tell you this, uh, no one has the time in the medical field, right? And I want to be open to understand that they don't have the time to educate the way they probably need to be educating. So
Mhm.
they basically follow a protocol and then send you on your way. But if you're unable to, like, literally sit there and advocate for yourself, then you may not get the care that you deserve, right? So that's where you need to say, hey, something's wrong and I need to figure out what's going on. And I know a lot of clients that I've spoken to in this specific area, these clients feel that also they weren't seen. They were gaslit by medical professionals. So of
Mhm.
course, if you think about it, they're coming from emotional suppression where they haven't felt seen or heard, right, in their childhood. Now they have a condition where they're now not seen, they're not heard, and they feel like they're gaslit. And then years and years of feeling terrible. And then here it is, right? So it's just over and over and over again, they're feeling these feelings and nothing is happening. So I think being
Right.
your own advocate and really just saying, look, like something needs to be done. I do not feel right. I know that this is not okay.
Wow. This is great. If somebody is going through something like that, where can they find you?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram as Vickie Padavano, just what my name is there. I'm
Mhm.
also I on TikTok. I actually have a free community for women, and it's a really good place for people to start to get information if you're just curious.
Mhm.
But we also do a lot of healing in there. But I've opened it up to people with autoimmune and undiagnosed, because
Mhm.
through my journey I realized many people don't even know they have an autoimmune condition, but they have all the symptoms for it. So it's a really good place. But either way, you can find me on both of those platforms, and I can always let you know how
I'll
to
have
join
all
the
your
community.
links in the bottom of the description
Okay.
and description of the show. And you also do stuff with couples, right? I saw something you did on Valentine's for couples.
Yes, yes. Yes, yes. So, my wife and I, both of us, we're nurses. We transitioned, and so we do a lot of breath work, somatics, and so we did a couples course. It was basically a connection, right? It
Mhm.
helps them somatically connect to their partner. So yeah, so we do different events like that as well. Like tonight, we're doing sound healing. So different things like that to help you heal in not the most traditional way, right? Using really non-traditional methods that actually work long-standing, not just manage your symptoms.
I love it. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Vickie, for being here and for, sharing all your knowledge. I mean, I myself learned a lot. I'm sure all my audience did too. Is there anything you would like to add? There is something coming that you would like to promote or you want to share with my audience?
Yeah, no, I think the biggest thing is there is a way to feel better. And I want everyone to know that, right? If you've been told you have this condition for the rest of your life, this is just what life is, it's not true. And I can tell you 100% it's not true, because I never thought I would feel better. And I just thought this is what life is. No, it does get better, right? So
Mhm.
there is hope. And honestly, the biggest thing is come join my free community, because that's really a place where you're going to get the foundational pieces of healing. We can always talk about anything further, but that is a really good place, because a lot of women who are going through these conditions feel alone, because no one knows what they're going through. They're going through these symptoms. Their spouses are saying, "Why are you so tired of the time?" The kids
Mhm.
are like, "Well, what? You're just sleeping, or you're always complaining of something." We understand, right? So this is a community where you are understood, you're seen, you're heard, you're validated, right? Something that we haven't felt in many years. So that's really my biggest thing, is really allowing people to come to the community to feel seen and heard and heal, right? To heal, because that's really what we want to do. We want our life back, right? We
Yeah.
don't want to just keep living this way. We want to get our life back.
Yes. And I'm going to finish with that. And thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you all for listening to the Don't Shrink to Fit podcast. If you like this episode, please write a juicy comment below and subscribe to my podcast. Remember, we can only fly if we embrace each other. Until next week, be happy, be safe, and be kind to yourself.